Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in this video we are going to discuss how we can create a base Helm chart, and then we are going to understand what all the files by default we will get when we create a base chart for Helm. So let's understand in more detail. So what I'm going to do, first I'm going to create a base Helm chart here. So for that we will simply run a command called Helm create, and we can give any name for our chart. For example, my first chart. Okay, so you can see here we've got one folder created called my hyphen first hyphen chart. This is the name which we have given. So it means you can give any name to your chart, like you can give any random name, whatever you want or whatever you like basically, and it will create a basic Helm chart structure for you. So if I'll expand this folder, so we can see we have one folder called charts, another is templates, then we have one file called .helm ignore, then we have charts.yaml and values.yaml. So total two folders and three files by default we will get when we will run a command called helm create and chart name. Now let me open this folder in file explorer. So this is the chart which we have created, my first chart, and here we got a folder called charts, templates and these files. So let's understand one by one about each folders and files, what it does basically, and what all the things we are going to store as part of these folders. So the very first thing is charts. So charts basically are used, or charts are basically used to store your dependencies. For example, suppose your application required MySQL database, then you will define those dependencies under this file charts.yaml. So whatever the dependencies you will define under this file on this file charts.yaml, those dependencies will be downloaded inside this chart folders. So if I open it, this folder, it is blank because there are no dependencies by default in base Helm chart which we have created. So that's why this folder is completely empty. Now let me go back to my presentation here. So this folder is used to store dependent charts, meaning other charts that your main charts rely on. So main charts, basically the templates. So under templates we create our main charts, and under on charts.yaml file basically we define our dependencies which is required for our applications. Okay, so there are few key points. So by default these folders will be empty. It is filled by dependencies. So whenever your chart has some dependencies like SQL, Redis, anything, those dependencies will automatically download it from the public repos. It could be your Bitnami, or maybe it could be your own repos if you are using private repos. So it could be anything. So it will go and download those dependencies from that particular repositories, and it will store under charts folder. So you are not going to manually create anything inside this folder. Everything will be downloaded from the public repo or Bitnami repo, for example, and whatever the dependency you are going to declare on charts.yaml file. So this is the use of chart folder. Now we have another folder called templates. So under templates we can see multiple files and folders as well. So there is one folder called test, and another file is helpers.tpl file. Then we have deployment.yaml file, horizontal autoscaler.yaml file, then ingress, then we have nodes, services. So these are the files which comes under templates. So templates are basically brain of for your Kubernetes clusters, because this is the actual content which we are going to deploy on Kubernetes, and these templates are basically like this. So you can see nothing is hard coded here. Everything will be dynamically fetched when we install Helm chart. So let me go back to my presentation here. So it contains the Kubernetes manifest template that define the resources your chart will deploy. Deployment, services, ingress, config map, secrets, whatever it is. And these charts basically use Go templating syntax. So you can insert the value, dynamic value from the values.yaml file. So let's understand this line here. So for example, under specification, we can see our replicas. Okay. So under replicas, there's a folder, values.values. It means it is referring to this file values.yaml. Okay, so let me go to this file as well. So here we have declared the replica count 1. Now if I'll go back to deployment.yaml file, so here dot values, first thing we have to go to this file. Then under this file it will look for this particular variable replica count. So if I'll go back to values.yaml file again, so here we have defined this variable replica count colon 1. So it is something like key value pair. So here key is replica count and value is 1. So either we can see we can tell is a variable or key. So this is the variable which we are going to declare in our manifest file. So in that case we are not going to hard code anything. We are just injecting the values from this values.yaml file dynamically, right? So if you see another thing, like if I'll go to let's do another file. Okay, suppose we have here the same value values.pod security context. So again we have to go to this values file. Under this value files we have created a variable called pod security context. Let's look for this variable. So here we have pod security context. So like that, basically we will declare these variables in our manifest file, so we can reuse these templates across the multiple environments, because that's the whole purpose of using Helm. You are not going to hard code anything. You are going to create a base templates, and those templates you are going to deploy multiple environments. Just you have to change these values, because all the configuration values or parameters we are going to store as part of this files. Suppose it could be you have multiple values.yaml file, maybe you will create environment specific, like it's all up to you how you want to use it. But this is the values.yaml is the file where you are going to store all of your configuration about your applications. So similarly HPA also, so everything which is you can see .values, so it means everything is coming from this particular file. So you have to manage only values.yaml file, because here we are going to specify or define the values or parameters for different environments. Okay, so now we have another folder under templates called test. So test is something like a smoke testing. Like if you see in real time, when we deploy any application for development, testing, UAT or whatever environment, initially once you done with the deployment, there is a testing team or QA team who is going to test your applications. So before that, what we generally do as a DevOps, we do an initial level of testing. Okay, the URL is working fine, database connectivity is fine. So similar kind of things we are going to perform as part of this particular file. So once the Helm charts will be installed or the resources will be deployed on your Kubernetes clusters, so we are going to do a smoke testing. So for example, here we are using wget. So this is generally we use in Linux environment, and we have used here busybox image. So this is a lightweight Linux image which we generally use to run any small task. So we are going to basically test the URLs. Okay, if you can see here, we have the .values, .service, .ports. So we are going to run a wget command on this particular port, and if we will get a response 200, it means the application or the resources, whatever the resources you have deployed, is working fine. This is just an example I have mentioned here, because this is the default file which we get when we create a base Helm chart. So if I'll go to this particular part, so if you see, first thing we have to go to values file, and under values you have to go to services. So let's see services, and under services we have declared the port. So in similar format you have to define here. That's what you can see, first values, then services. Under services we have declared the port. Okay, so that's how the port 80 is coming here, and this is including my chart, my first chart dot full name. So this is the, I think this is coming from this file. uh, okay, so I think, oh sorry, this is not hard coded, so it is showing include, so that there is no values or something, but my first chart dot full name, so this value something will be there. Okay, let's see, sorry, values.yaml file. So here we have full name override. Okay, let me go back again. So here actually my chart, my first chart dot full name, so we have to look the variable called full name here, but from where it is coming. So my first chart will be this, and we have to look for full name variable. Okay, it is not coming this file, otherwise it will define dot values. So from somewhere it is coming. Let me quickly check. Okay, so let's verify helpers.tpl file as well. Okay, so here we have defined the value my first chart, sorry, this one. So it is coming from the helpers.tpl file. So that's what we use, helpers.tpl file, to clean our basically manifest file, so it will not become messy. So this is what include is a function which is calling this particular value from the helpers.tpl file and hyphen test connections. Okay, so now let's move to another file which is .helm ignore. So this is similar to a .git ignore file. So why? As we know, .git ignore file we generally use when we don't want to check in unnecessary files in our source control system. So same concept here we have with .helm ignore as well. So when we are packaging our application in Helm, we want to avoid such files. So for that we use .helm ignore, and we can define those files or folder under this file, so it will not pack during the packaging or when we create a bundle for our applications. Then we have a charts.yaml file. So this is where we define the metadata of our applications and the dependencies of our applications. So that's whatever the dependency we are going to declare as part of chart.yaml file, those dependency is going to download and store in charts folder. And apart from that, we define the, like, for what purpose we have created this charts. All those things we declare in this file. So you can see type, applications, version, app versions. App version is generally your Docker image tag you can define here. Then we have values.yaml file, so which we have already discussed. So here we define all the configuration details about our applications. So this values.yaml file will help us to keep clean our templates, so we can reuse across the environments. So in this video I just want to give a quick overview how we can create a initial or first chart, and what all the things we will get when we create base charts, and what each folders and file does. So whenever you are starting to learning Helm, you have to go and you have to create base chart. You have to understand each files and folders. Then you have to slowly increase the difficulty levels basically. So that's all for today. I hope it's clear. In case if you have any doubts, you can definitely ping me on comments box. So see you next video. Thank you so much.